A very good Tuesday evening to you, and thank you so much for joining us tonight at 6:30. It was a hot one across northern Michigan, also pretty windy, but looking at some of our radar and some of our live cameras around northern Michigan, it looks like some rain is in the forecast now. Yep, definitely. Yep. Indeed. Joe, will that be the case for the rest of the evening, a pretty wet one?
Yeah, it'll take a little while, I think, to get going. We've already had a little bit of rain in spots. If you're on the Manistee, Ludington areas, you've had rain. But it'll be a little later tonight when that really picks up. I think, after 10, 11 o'clock. Some showers. If you're over on the east side of the state, it might take almost till sunrise until you see rain there. But we are going to get rain. I think everybody will, out of a cold front. And you know what that means? When a cold front comes in, we're going to cool down. So not quite as warm. By the way, Maya, it was really warm today. I mean, Sheboygan reached 88 this afternoon.
It was hot.
Yeah, it was. So we'll talk about that and take a look at the rest of the week coming up in a few minutes.
All right. Thank you, Joe. Our top story tonight, a Traverse City nonprofit is looking into the future and thinking about how to expand while dealing with potential funding challenges. In an effort to move all of their resources into one building, Addiction Treatment Services will be selling the recovery homes that they own around Traverse City. And today, our Allie Baxter talked with the CEO and has the full story.
The recovery housing was a program that financially was not always sound or flush.
Over the last 50 years, Addiction Treatment Services in Traverse City acquired a lot of property, 11 to be exact.
That house all of our programs from men's residential, women's residential, withdrawal management, outpatient, medically assisted treatment, and recovery homes.
11 buildings, 11 roofs, 11 HVAC systems, and 11 sidewalks to snowplow.
That is very taxing on us in a lot of different ways.
ATS CEO Paula Lipinski is preparing to lead the nonprofit into its next 50 years. She praises her predecessors' outside-the-box thinking to turn these historic downtown houses into recovery homes to help people. The homes serve as transitional housing for people leaving treatment.
That's the benefit of those homes, but the deficit of those homes is the cost of maintaining them. And many of them are from the 1800s, 1890s. And it is, just think about, owning my own home, timesing that by 6, plus having people, these are homes that people generally stay 6 months in. So 54 people times 6 months. It's a lot of traffic for some of these older homes.
6 of the 11 properties ATS owns are designated as recovery homes. 5 house men, 1 houses women. But the goal of the next 50 years is to combine multiple facilities under one roof. So instead of driving down the street, you're walking down the hall.
We really do a phenomenal job at treating the people that we treat, and really feel that by being under one roof, we can take all the amazing things we've already done and just make them that much better.
But in order to meet that goal, they need to temporarily close the Recovery Homes program, a decision Paula says was difficult to make because they know the impact it will have. But financially, it's the best move.
Are heavily focused on Medicaid. There's going to be a lot of changes to Medicaid in the next probably 4 months. So we need to be prepared as an agency to look at alternatives to our funding model to also be responsible. So that's also part of our 50-year goal, is we want to be able to be around for the next 50 years, regardless of funding sources.
As Paula explains, by limiting the number of facilities, they're actually expanding the quality of services they can offer in one place. But it's bittersweet to say goodbye, because the homes are a symbol of the journeys of so many.
So many people have connections who have been through treatment or recovery housing, who can say, oh my gosh, I used to live in this house. And I have a lot of pride as a leader to say, these are our properties, these are the things that go on there.
Excuse me. That was Allie Baxter reporting, and Allie is joining us live now from our content center with more on this story. Hey, Allie, thanks so much for being on Unscripted today. Good to see you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when it comes to these recovery homes that you mentioned are temporarily closing, we heard in your story that people typically stay there for about 6 months. So people who are staying there right now, where will they go? What's going to happen to them?
Yeah, so staff and administration at ATS have already told the people that are living there, their clients as they call them, they have already given them a much advanced heads up. They've told them, I believe, back in February or March already, and those were the first people that they informed that, hey, this won't be an option in the next 6 months from now. And they said it's going to be a very slow process. They definitely will not be necessarily kicking anyone out, but they have informed people that we will help you find your next steps here, but these homes are going to be sold ultimately at least by the end of the summer.
And once ATS does find a building where they can house all of their different programs and resources under one roof, will that also have these sort of like recovery type homes in that building then?
Yeah, it would just mean all those services are now under one roof. So right now there's 6 of those recovery homes that are kind of scattered throughout downtown Traverse City. And they say they're running the same program essentially out of each home. 5 of them are for men, 1 of them are for women and children. And they say they're running that same program, but essentially having to stagger it throughout the day. And staffing wise, that's not really conducive to being able to really go through and use their resources wisely. So what they want to do is let's have one recovery housing program, but it's also under the same roof where all of us are already.
And we know besides just the recovery homes, ATS has a lot of different services that they offer.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming they're going to need a pretty big building to fit everything, like we mentioned, under one roof. Do they have any idea of where, like, are they looking at properties right now? Where does that stand?
Yeah, they actually have a realtor that they are working with to find that perfect property, and they say it's still kind of up in the air what that perfect property would look like, but they know being able to obtain a new property, obviously it's going to cost a lot of money, and so that's one of the reasons they have to go ahead and move and sell these recovery homes so that they can have that money to be able to purchase a new property. But they say, we know we are kind of asking for something that has to check a lot of certain boxes, but we are really hoping that the perfect property does show up, and we are working with a realtor who understands that we need certain things in place.
And do they have a goal of when they're hoping to get into a new property?
They say that they know realistically it will probably take more than a year.
Mm-hmm. So from now until when they can get there, if it's a year, if it's less or more, how will services at ATS change for their clients?
So right now, the only service that is being impacted is that recovery housing program. So really just that transitional housing piece. And right now, they are directing people to different resources around the rest of northern Michigan that are operating as transitional housing. They told me today they also have contracts with people outside of northern Michigan, you know, downstate Michigan and the Upper Peninsula that could also house people if needed. So that service doesn't necessarily go away because they will still connect people with the resources that they need. They just won't have that own service internally, if that makes sense.
Gotcha. And then, but like you mentioned, every other service, every other program will remain the same?
Yeah, absolutely. And Paula today actually told me that she really wants people to still reach out to them if you need anything, any help. Even though this one specific service is being paused for a little bit, like we can still help you if housing is something that you need, if a safe housing environment is something that you need to be able to continue on with the treatment, then we will help you with that.
And of course, all these changes are coming as funding is potentially a little uncertain. In your story, we heard Paula say that they might have to start looking at alternative funding methods. Did you guys talk any more about what that could look like?
Yeah, I think mostly the point that Paula was trying to get across is that they don't want it to be an organization or even a nonprofit that just depends on certain grants coming down every year or certain funding sources, especially Medicaid. They know that Medicaid is going to potentially change a lot maybe in the next few years, and they want to be sure that we're thinking ahead and being prepared that, hey, if this one funding source goes away that we depend on, we don't want in our entire resources, our entire operation to be in jeopardy because this one resource of funding that we had isn't available anymore.
Right, so they're just trying to get ahead of things and prepare in case that does happen.
Yeah, exactly. They're just really kind of looking down the line. Again, they have a really big anniversary this year. It's 50 years. And in order to continue on with the next 50 years, they say we have to be fiscally responsible, financially responsible, and we want to make sure that we're never in a position that potentially we'll have to scale back some of our services because we're out of funding.
And 11 properties, like you mentioned in your story, that's a lot to take care of. That's a lot of finances.
Yeah, exactly. And even like as Paula was saying herself, she's like, I think of the one home that I own, and that's enough for me. Now, you know, times that by 11 and times that with our certain recovery homes where we have 54 people that are living in these 6 recovery homes, it's a lot of wear and tear and financially, like you were saying as well, even though they are a nonprofit and there are some different exemptions that they have as far as taxes go, it's still like a lot of upkeep with some of these older historic homes that they are using. And they say it's a lot of checking on the roofs and making adjustments to the HVAC systems. And it would just be easier at this point to have those services under one roof. So I think the phrase that they were using today was, instead of quantity, we're going for quality right now.
Well, that definitely makes sense. Is there anything else that you want to mention about this alley that we haven't touched on yet?
I guess I would just emphasize again that they say, even though, this seems like an intimidating thing to be getting rid of these homes, and they know like it's a really big deal for a lot of people. These homes are symbols of the recovery process that a lot of people have gone on. So it is a really difficult and bittersweet decision, but they know it is one that they do need to make, and they do want people to still reach out to them, connect with them if they feel like they need a transitional housing option, and they say, we will help you find one since we don't have this service right now.
All right, Allie, thank you so much for joining us on Unscripted. As always, we really appreciate it. We have one more story to share with you before our first commercial break. So harvest for apple growers is still a few months away, but what happens in orchards around northern Michigan this week may have a huge impact when it comes to when it is picking time across all of these different orchards. And after our long winter and then pretty slow warm-up, growers around the region are just kind of playing the waiting game at this point. Here's Mark Schlatt with that story.
The Honeycrisp, Gala, Sweet Tango varieties.
At Cherry Bay Orchards in Leelanau County, they know all the apples.
Kintosh, Romes, Ida Reds.
And they've been in the apple growing game long enough to know you don't count your bushels until they're actually in the baskets.
The unpredictability is what is predictable. That every year is going to be different. Every spring is going to be different. Every growing season and harvest is going to be different.
So when you ask Emma here how this year's crop is shaping up, you get a veteran grower's response.
I'll let you know in August, maybe.
That's just the nature of growing. But this week here and at apple and cherry orchards all around northern Michigan, the impact of our long winter and spring weather are starting to be evaluated.
We started blooming in apples in some varieties like 2 weeks ago, and it's just been kind of a drawn out bloom. As these cooler temperatures came in, things aren't really moving along.
After a couple of short winters and abnormally quick warm-ups the past couple of years, growers are left playing the waiting game this year.
I've got trees where like clusters are open, some are starting to go into petal fall, and then there's other clusters that are still at pink and haven't even begun to open flowers yet.
Our long winter restocked a lot of ground moisture, which is good. But recent cooler weather has kept the bees from doing their job in some places. And so, in the meantime, growers hope and wait.
Apples started opening when we had those warm, a couple weeks ago, those really warm temperatures. They opened up, and then it's been cool. And so that is a bit of a concern of how much pollinator activity we were getting out there.
It's not just here. Around our region, a similar story's being told.
I feel like we're kind of still playing a waiting game, which seems unbelievable considering it's going to be June.
Nikki Rothwell at the MSU Horticultural Research Station talks to a lot of growers, and a lot of them echo Emma. Apple trees a little behind, and perhaps more unusual, running a spectrum of where they are in that growing process. Not just orchard to orchard, but actually tree by tree.
We've been recommending getting out of the truck and actually walking, looking at the tree, look high in the tree, which usually has more fruit than the bottom part of the tree, and then start to make those thinning decisions.
While growers will continue to wait until the harvest, this week, with some warmer temperatures, some answers are expected.
We should be able by the end of next week to know a little better what we have out there and then take that into account as we look at thinning.
And if we're talking about apples, we got to know what your favorite kind of apple is. That is our question of the day. Scan the QR code on your screen right now. That'll take you to our website, UpNorthLive.com, where you can vote. I'm not going to tell you the results right now, but one type of apple is kind of running away with majority of the votes, and I'll just say that I'm not surprised by those results. It is indeed. There is one correct answer, the best apple out there. All right, we are going to take a quick commercial break, but you'll have much more on your forecast. You'll take a look at those showers that are heading our way and when we'll have more dry weather. Straight ahead.
I'm Jada Johnson from Big Boys TV, and the Fish and Game Report is sponsored by Johnson's Propane.
Well, after several dry days, we are finally starting to see some rain across northern Michigan. For more, let's turn things over to Joe. Joe, can we expect to see rain all throughout the night? But what about into our Wednesday?
Yeah, the rain will slowly move in tonight, maybe a few rumbles of thunder too. And then tomorrow, kind of a wet start to the day. So I think, between, let's say, 6 a.m., noon, 1 o'clock, some rain, and then that'll kind of wind down later tomorrow. We're still dealing too, Maya, with smoke in some spots. So let's start with that. All the gray areas is where we have air quality alerts through part of tomorrow, depending on which county you're in. But this extends from Manistee County into the Grand Traverse region through northwest lower Michigan, the Straits of Mackinac up into the UP, and it's all because of that wildfire smoke. So here's a look at that. There's the smoke forecast. You can kind of see northern Michigan there. That'll kind of move out of here for a little bit, and then tomorrow morning you can see the thicker smoke off to the west of us, and see what happens to that. That kind of rides in here tomorrow afternoon. So the rain will end, the clouds will depart, and then I still think we're going to have some smoke hanging overhead tomorrow afternoon, evening, probably right into part of Thursday morning. It has been windy today. You probably noted that. There's a look at the wind gusts, but the key right now is the direction of the wind. That has been out of the south or southwest, so that has pushed temperatures today well into the 80s. Pellston reached 88. These are the high temperatures today. Sheboygan, Rogers City, Boyne Falls, all at 88 degrees. Traverse City, Alpena, we're both at 87. And then there's Manistee up there in the UP, where the high today was 57. That was it, with the lake breeze there. All right, here's our front. That blue line, that is a cold front working through. A lot of rain and thunderstorms all the way from, Texas tonight up into parts of Missouri and Illinois. You can see some intense thunderstorms here working across Oklahoma, just crossing Missouri, getting into areas around Quincy, Illinois. And then back up in our area, we've had a little bit of rain. I think more of this, though, will hold off until a little bit later this evening through tonight. So we'll kind of show you that. Here's the timing on that. There's the showers and thunderstorms. This is around midnight, 1 o'clock. I will say, if you're down around Houghton Lake, the further southeast you go, Alpena even, West Branch, you might not see any rain till almost sunrise tomorrow, because this front will slowly work through. There's tomorrow morning, though, around 8 o'clock. There's the rain. And then this will start to gradually diminish, and we should get back to dry weather as we head into the day on Thursday. So depending on where, a thunderstorm or two may set up, there could be some heavy downpours. Some spots could see up to an inch of rain, or more maybe, in a couple spots as this front passes by. So our extended forecast, there it is. Once we get through the rain, our next chance is not going to be until probably late weekend. Looks like another system comes in Sunday later in the day into perhaps part of Monday, a few showers early next week. But a nice stretch coming up tomorrow afternoon, nice Thursday, Friday, and the start of the weekend at least. Looks pretty nice, Maya, pretty comfortable too.
We will take that.
All right.
Thanks, Joe. We are going to also take a quick commercial break, but Sports Director Harrison Beebe will join us in just a few minutes. Stay with us. It is a busy week for high school sports. It's also been a pretty eventful week for the Detroit Tigers, and it's only Tuesday, so we have a lot to talk about with sports director Harrison Beebe. Harrison, where should we start?
Maya, 40 wins is pretty cool for the Tigers to get in June 2nd, well, on June 2nd, in the month of June for sure, but especially so early. In fact, I have a fun little chart to show us how long it took the Tigers to get to 40 wins the last several years. I caught this one on social media earlier today. Look at 2019, it took till August 31st, basically Labor Day weekend, to get to 40 wins. And they've played a lot better, getting there in July the last several years, but to do so a month earlier, yeah, I mean, and they're playing the White Sox, so it's nothing that is that hard to believe that they would have gotten a win last night. Obviously, a 13-1 win at that matter. But yeah, the Tigers are definitely the story of baseball in this first half of the season. And if you think about it, they were kind of the story of the second half of last season. So since the All-Star break, they have basically dominated baseball talk outside of the LA Dodgers actually winning the World Series last October. So what will happen down the road, we don't know for sure, but we are enjoying the ride.
Yeah, what an accomplishment. It is really interesting when you put it into perspective that just last year it was a great year for the Tigers, especially in that second half, but it took them till July 5th, like more than a month later, to get to 40 wins.
Well, they were dead in the water in August, so you know, reaching 40 wins in July wasn't really something remarkable for them. It was kind of a ho-hum, and they were sellers at the trade deadline, and then ended up making that huge run anyways. So the crazy sport of baseball. And Maya, while I have you, I want to touch base. It's regional week for high school spring sports, and tonight and tomorrow will be the girls soccer regional semifinals taking place. We know Leland and Petoskey are in action right now, competing in games downstate, and tomorrow Boyne City and Traverse City St. Francis will be in the same regional in Division III. If those teams get wins, they'll compete for regional titles later in the weekend, and a full busy regional week because softball regionals will be Saturday. We know baseball regional semifinals set to start tomorrow, with those going into Saturday for the regional finals. So a lot to determine before we get to state finals for those sports. That'll be next weekend. It'll be a very busy week for me next week, but we'll save all that talk for next week.
And before we let you go, Harrison, what is your favorite type of apple?
I voted Red Delicious on the poll, so I was disappointed to see that's not winning, but more for me then.
Well, we will let you know those live results in just a couple of minutes. Harrison, thanks for joining us. We will be right back with the results and some of your comments on favorite apple type next.
Salon services are furnished by Epiphany Advanced Academy in East Acme.
Well, the people have spoken, and 55% of our viewers are correct with saying that Honeycrisp apples are the best kind of apples. Not even a question in my mind. You can see all the results on your screen right now. Not a whole lot of love for Granny Smith or Golden Delicious, but yep, overwhelmingly Honeycrisp, the #1 choice. Over on Facebook, though, we have a lot of comments, and most of them are saying Honeycrisp by a mile. Quite a few are saying Sweet Tango, and I haven't tried a Sweet Tango apple, so thank you for introducing me to this whole new world of apples. I'll have to find some of those at the store when I leave, but we are all out of time. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you back here at 11.